The eyes have always been key. Eyes have been used to determine if a person is telling the truth. Eyes have been used to determine if something is wrong with someone else's life. Eyes are used to see and observe other things or other people. You lock eyes with people. But most importantly, even if eyes don't have mouths, you can convey messages with your eyes. My vision and attitude for human trafficking has always been hostile. I've always known through Google that human trafficking was inhumane misery. I've known through people's words that it's not a minuscule, unnoticed crime either. But I never grasped what it was like, and I still haven't. I know what human trafficking does and what happens to the victims. I know how the traffickers get away and get ideas on how the laws are used in the favor of the criminal. I know that victims are permanently scarred, how they don't trust the legal system because there isn't anything they can really offer. On the other hand, traffickers did. I know that traffickers can give them money, shelter, and food in exchange for the victim's existence, while the government can only offer about 89 cents. I have been offered a glimpse of that traumatic world, and I stood there, arms open wide, welcoming a nightmare. Human trafficking happens all over the world, even here, the glorious United States of America. But the place I visited was Chiang Mai, Thailand, one of the numerous hotspots for human trafficking. At first glance, it seemed that all was well. People working day and night, the bazaars are filled with life and lights as it was filled with residents and tourists. The shouting of store owners and the smell of all the different dishes presented a feast for your nose. If anything, Chiang Mai seemed more enjoyable than back in San Francisco. Our group had recently come back from the village from doing missionary work, and we were spending time around Chiang Mai, exploring their culture through sculptures, food, speaking to locals, and attending their events. Everything seemed so festive and pleasant to be around us, and we indulged ourselves. But little did I realize that at the time, I was only capable of seeing the bare surface of things. We were invited to visit a human trafficking rehabilitation center, where they brought victims of human trafficking. Their role was to raise, educate, and help secure a job for victims when they leave the facility. The security was so tight that they even took records of our identifications. They confiscated any methods of recording media, phones, cameras, and video recorders to assure that no photos of the victims would get out. Inside, the walls were white, and security cameras all over the place. They had a field the size of 3 soccer fields for the children to be active during free time. But near it was what I interpreted as the Emergency Rehabilitation Center. According to the principal, it was where trafficked victims are sent right when they're rescued. The principal of the center was in the middle of our tour when a student of the center was running late and happened to run into us. For Ilya's sake, we'll call him Decha. Decha, do you mind greeting our guests? Good afternoon. The student's greeting appeared to be meek, and it seemed to be forced. The principal made an example of the student to demonstrate the process and the positive results of the rehabilitation center. I viewed the student only as a child, and I assumed him being shy was instinctive. The student was no older than 8 years old, yet here he was. What I saw next was what I thought was a figment of my imagination, but I definitely perceived it from head to toe. I locked eyes with the student for a moment. The warmth that the principal had welcomed us with was nowhere to be seen in his gaze. Here's a glimpse of what he had shown me. What do you feel? The windows of his soul declared that he needed to get out of this situation. He needed to flee. His gaze was panicked. He wasn't feeling scared. He was petrified. All of a sudden, his fear rushed and embodied me for a second. It was so agonizing, yet so harmless. The student released his spell as he turned away, bolting down the stairs. I returned to my senses, realizing I was short of breath. My eyes were weary. A cold sweat crawled down my spine. My legs were wailing for me to take a seat. By the time I had recollected myself, the tour was on the move again. I quailed the wailing, forcing my legs to wait a little longer. But as I walked with the group, I fell back into a trance. It all felt wrong. This agonized me throughout the rest of the trip, and even when I came home. I was still writhing in tormenting curiosity. It was when I talked to a fellowship leader when they broke it down for me. Why is it that when I know something is frightening, it gave me a completely different feeling than when I met the student? What you know is still a mystery until you experience it, isn't it? That's when it struck me. What I saw was the student's fear. What I felt was his terror. It occurred to me that I had never known what terror was. I was, still am, scared of multiple things: height, pain, jump scares, thievery, and horror movies. but that student was living in a horrendous moment, fearing for his life. The eyes have always been a powerful tool. It cannot lie, but nor can it speak. In this case, the eyes of the victim sparked a question, but time led me to one truth. Until someone experiences terror, they cannot truly understand fear. Although you need knowledge and time to understand, the vision your eye captures starts it all.